G'day folks, Ben from Snowy's here today showing you how to set up the Telos TR2 tent from Cedar Summit.
Get it.
Ultralight hike tent from Cedar Summit has a freestanding design, 2 entryways, multiple setup options and a choice of inner materials to suit just about any climate. Before we dive into this product, there is loads more content like this on our YouTube channel, so make sure you like and subscribe and you'll get notified of all of our latest content. Now let's jump in. So I've got in my hands here the Cedar Summit Telos TR2 tent. Now this is the regular version, not the plus version. Now this actually comes in 5 different models, one of them being a bike packing model which has a shorter pole section but all the same features, and we've got another video covering off on those details, so check that out. But otherwise this comes in a TR2 and a TR3, which is a 2 or a 3 person version. And you get a choice of 2 different fabrics, either a polyester mesh for warmer climates or a full nylon inner for cooler climates. So they rate that as either a 3 season or the full nylon inner is a 3+ season, not really a 4 season, but really good all-round tents. If you're in a cold climate, you're going to benefit from that nylon inner. It's going to cut out a bit of the winds. Now weight range across all of those tents is within the vicinity of about 1.6 through to about 2.2. That's packed weight. Trail weight's a little bit different, but check our website for all of those details. And the bike pack version weighs a little bit, is a little bit different in weight again. In terms of dimension, it's around about 50 centimeters in length here and about 12 centimeters in diameter. I'm here to show you how to set this up and pack it away today. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull this apart, because there's actually 3 or 4 sections to this here that you can pack in multiple different ways. The first thing I want to do is show you all the packing options here, because as with all Cedar Summit products, nothing's been left unconsidered here. Everything has a purpose, everything has a reason, everything has been thought about. Their ethos behind design is awesome. There's actually 3 sections here, or 4 if you include the tent peg bag. So you could pack this like this in your pack, like a traditional tent if you like. Now, people often pack it separately to either share weight or make it easier to pack in a bag. Sometimes it's easier to pack smaller sections rather than one long section. So Cedar Summit have created this such that it actually comes in multiple sections. Now we've got 4 here. These are the pegs and guy ropes here. You can actually tuck them inside one of these bags or in with the poles there if you like. Now this is the fly sheet here. This is the inner tent here. And this is the poles here. Now, on top of this, we'll show you this later, but all of these bags, with the exception of the peg bag, actually integrate into the tent and become useful storage or lighting options. This becomes a light bar. We'll show you that in the features video. Check that one out if you want to see the details of those. I'm just here to show you how to set it up today. Now you have got multiple versatile setup options with the Telos tent here. I'm going to try and step through or cover most of them in the setup and pack down today as best I can. But you can set it up traditionally, which is to set up the inner and then the fly sheet over the top, so a dual skin tent. You can use just the inner by itself. You can use it in what they call their partial fly mode, which has set up the inner with the fly sheet sort of bunched up in the middle, ready to quickly pull over the tent if it does rain. You can use the fly just by itself, either with or without the optional footprint. And they also have a hangout mode where you can use either your trekking poles or optional poles to sort of tilt the pole up to create a bit of a, almost like a gazebo. We'll show you a bit more on that later. So heaps and heaps of different setup options, and you can also set it up fly first and then peg the inner up, and you can pack it down that way in reverse as well. So if you're in a wet environment and you want that dry space to be able to set the tent up, you can do that with this tent. But for now, I'm going to set it up the traditional way to start with. That's to grab the inner tent here, spread it out and peg the corners. So in this bag here, you do get enough pegs to be able to set the tent up in full. So they're Ultralight A1 7075 T6 alloy pegs, which are slightly lighter weight than their ground control pegs. Really lightweight option for this tent here. And you get some some guy ropes in here. So you get 1, 2, 4 in total. Different lengths, color-coded for lengths, and they attach via these little boomerang attachments. We'll show you that shortly. First thing I need to do is grab 4 pegs and peg the corners, all 4 corners of the inner tent here. Not tight, just loosely, because we can adjust it via the adjustments on each corner. So next we grab the poles. So take them out of the bag here, or what will become our light bar later on. Now this is an all-in-one pole section. Make sure this doesn't blow away. This is a brand new tent, so we've still got the rubber bands over it. Now this is all it's all one pole lot. So if you don't flick this out, but it will connect together as one kind of section. There's not multiple poles in here. And they're color coded as well. So the first thing you want to do is put them together carefully. So don't just flick it together. Put each section together carefully so that they fully seat inside the connectors like this. Make sure each one is fully seated into the hub there. Make sure they're fully seated all the way. Once you've got that together, you can line up the green sections of the pole with the green tabs on the tent, whereas on the other end, they're gray. So that's going to help us orient the frame the right way around. We come to each corner now and we locate the silver end of the poles here in the hole in these feet on each corner. So push this through here, then come to the next corner, gently flex this down and locate that in this corner. That's the head end of the tent. Come down to the foot end of the tent here, flex the whole thing upwards like this, and then we can locate the poles at this end. So the green end of the pole into the green foot here, and then flex the last corner down and into this portion here. Now from here, we can, if we want, just tighten these gorrets on the corners a little bit, or these ropes on the corners a little bit. Try and get the ground or the base of the tent as flat as we can. You don't want them overly tight, just enough to stop it moving around too much. So just tension that a little bit. Do the same at the other end, and then we can clip the inner up. We now need to pull the middle of the tent up and attach it to the frame. Now this section here, this is a tension ridge pole. This is one of the awesome features of this tent. Traditionally, these poles will stick straight out. At the moment, these are angling down, but the design of this tent is such that you would flick this over this way. These poles then angle upwards. That pulls the height of the tent up even higher. So flick this over so that this hub is pointing downwards, and then find this little clip that's located on the fabric of the tent here, and that clips in underneath here. We don't need to come out to the sides, and I'm just leaning over here a bit, but we grab these fabric loops here. These go into these clips on the end here. So loop it over and give it a bit of a pull, it just clicks into place. Do that on both sides. The second one's going to be a little bit firmer than the first. Pull it out, clip it into place. You can see the tent now starting to take shape. From here, you can move across to all of these C-clips and attach them up onto the pole. So you've got 3 across this long section here, 2 at the foot section, and then you do the same thing at the head end of the tent. Now we grab the fly sheet. We could use the tent like this if we like, if it's a nice balmy night. Plenty of ventilation, it's going to give you mozzie protection. If it's rainy or you want a bit of wind protection though, throw the fly sheet over the top. Now we just got to orient the fly. Now there's quite a few attachment points on the fly. You got this sort of one for hangout mode. That'll all make more sense shortly, but what you need to do is find the color-coded metal clips on the corners. So work your way around the tent. Here we go, here's one. It's a grey clip on that corner there. I keep working my way around. We will come to a green clip. Now these, once again, are color-coded. So these colors line up with the green and the grey colored feet that we saw before. So we know that the feet, the green one was down this end of the tent and the grey one at this end. So that's going to help us orient the fly. So throw the fly over the top, but before you clip the clips on the corners, you need to attach the fly to the tension ridge pole over the top here. To do that, look underneath the fly here, and what you're trying to find are these little pockets here. And once again, there's color coding here to help you with this. So this green tab on here correlates with the green rope on the tension ridge pole here. And this just sits over the top of the pole like this. Now you'll need to hold that in place while you put tension across the ridge to the other side of the tent. You'll find a second pocket with a grey tab that correlates to the grey strap on this side here, and you just need to flex the poles a little bit and locate the tension ridge pole in that pocket there as well. So that's now got our tension ridge pole secured across the top here. So the fly is sort of semi-attached to the tent. So you can now drape it down over the tent, and if we come down to each corner, this is another cool feature of this tent, the ease at which the fly sheet attaches to the inner. Before you do all these though, what you want to do is come up under here and find each of these tabs. These attach around the pole here. You'll find them up along here, and there will also be one right up here on the tent as well. So Try and remember to do these before you attach all the corners. Find your little C-clip here and loosen this. Now this clip here attaches to this foot section here. If you try and push it straight down, you see it won't fit. It's designed as such that you put it on sideways, spin it around, and then it attaches. There's one of those on each corner, so you don't need an extra peg for your fly sheet on these corners here. Do that on each corner and leave these loose because we'll line it all up with the frame after. The fly sheet is now attached to the inner. The only thing that's freestanding, with the exception that to use these vestibules, you now need to peg this out. So 2 more pegs, and it's really the minimum you'd need. You wouldn't even have to put the 4 corner pegs in if you didn't want to. But if I was to take the 4 corner pegs out now, I could lift the tent up as it is and move it around. So that's the freestanding nature of it. Now the last thing we want to do is just adjust the fly a little bit. We want to try and get these seams to line up pretty closely, or as close as we can to the actual frame, by tightening the corners. So if I tighten this down here, do the opposite corner, just slight adjustments just until this sort of lines up. We can see that coming down close to the frame there now. You never get it exact, but that's pretty good there now. This seam is following the line of the frame. Do that on this side. On the other side too, you might find you need to tighten the vestibule on that side just to pull the fly across a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, just loosely lined up. I'm just putting the last 2 pegs in place. I put the same thing on the other side. There's a door on each side here. So each vestibule has got 2 of these straps here. If you leave probably the one that's underneath this storm flap off of the peg, it makes it easy to do up and undo. But that's the only 2 pegs you really need to put the anchor the tent down. So if it is really like calm weather, you have no concerns about wind, and you've got weight in it all the time, you could just use this peg and the peg on the other side, but it is preferable to add more pegs just in case the weather does pick up. So that's the tent pretty much set up for mild conditions. If you did need to use guy ropes, and it is recommended to use guy ropes as much as you can, as mentioned before, you do get these 4 guy ropes here. They're color coded, so you've got 2 shorter ones, which would be for the foot end of the tent, and 2 longer ones for the head end of the tent here. And they attach to these little grey tabs on here. So these guy ropes are designed to be removable. So gone are the days where you worry about guy ropes getting tangled up when you pack your tent up. These come off completely and easily. So these are loops. At one end of this guy rope, I won't untie this now, but this is the slider, the little lock that allows us to tighten the guy rope. So the peg goes through the loop that this at the end of the guy rope that this is on. And this end here is the end that anchors to the tent. So a little boomerang tucks up underneath this loop here, through the top, and locks into place like that. And we've now got a guy rope attached. So you can attach 4 guy ropes on this, and that's going to make it nice and secure. When you go to pack it up, these just slide out really easily, pack up separately. I guess there's more chance of losing them. Make sure you put them in your pocket or keep them separate, but you don't have to worry about guy ropes being tangled up when you roll your tent fly up. So that's classic setup, traditional setup, dual skin tent, going to cover you for most weather conditions. Now, the last thing you can do for setup is attach the little bags inside the tent for storage. So our storage bags that have specific attachment points inside. We cover off on that in our features video, so check that out if you want to find out about them. I'm going to pack this up and show you a pack up inner first, so you can see the fly-only mode and how you can pack it up in wet weather. And I'm also going to show you the hangout mode just before we pack it all away as well. But before I do that, I want to show you their partial fly mode. To set that up, you attach the fly across the tension ridge pole there, and you put the 2 pegs out on each side, and then these ends roll up to the middle. So what I'm going to do now is I'll loosen all these attachment points here, detach these corners at each end, so the 2 corners at each end, and the attachments on the pole here, and I'm going to roll this fly up to the middle here. Once I've got it there, I can show you how you can secure it, and that way you've got the fly ready to pull over the tent if it is raining. So I've got half the fly rolled up here now. There's this tab under here with a little boomerang that if you've got half the tent rolled up, you can use this loop on top of the tent to put that through to attach half of it. I'm going to roll this second half up as well and use the other loop here, which means this will go all the way around the whole tent fly that's bunched up here and be secured here on both sides. So to attach or to secure both ends of the fly sheet, I've taken the boomerang out of the loop on the top here. I've got this elastic cord, and then if I reach underneath, I'm going to grab this loop here, loop it right around and put the boomerang through that loop, and that secures the fly sheet over the top. So We've now got the fly sheet sitting here ready, just in case it rains. Hopefully you get through the night and you can stargaze all night. If you, during the night, suddenly it starts to rain, you jump out of your tent, you loosen both of these loops on each side here, you fold the fly sheet down, attach it to the pole if you want, but at the very least, quick attachment to each of the 4 corners, and you've got a waterproof fly. It's probably going to take you about 20 to 30 seconds. Now for pack up, I'm going to do it slightly differently to show you the different setup options while I'm packing it up. We could just take the fly off, roll the fly up, then roll the inner up. That's the traditional way of doing it. But what I want to do is show you how you can take the inner out first, and obviously then the reverse of that would be packing the fly up, setting the fly up first, so that if it is raining, you can set the fly up and then get in underneath, unpack everything you want to keep dry and set the tent up that way. And then I'm going to show you the hangout mode as well, as best I can partway through. Now to do this, I need to just leave this open, which isn't quite going to show you exactly how it will work, but otherwise you won't be able to see what I'm doing inside. If I open this up and come inside the tent here, first thing we need to do is collapse the inner tent down away from the frame. So we undo these clips here, the one at the top, and then the second one over the other side here. So you need to reach across a little bit. So we do the same thing at this end here. So there's 5 clips that we want to undo, reach across. We've got to now remove it from the tension ridge pole here. So you can imagine if this is all zipped up, it's a little bit cramped, but I'm dry inside here. Once we've got this down, we'll have more space to move. So we've got to undo these loops here that we loop around the plastic clips here. Now this is probably the hardest bit. You need to just kind of roll them off because they do sort of lock into place. So just kind of invert it on itself and undo that. It's one side, reach across to the other side, do the same thing. Then remove the clip in the middle here, and that's our inner, now down away from the tent. So essentially what the inner is doing now is mimicking what a ground sheet would, or a footprint would do. For us to use this in a fly only mode, so we'd have the footprint to sleep on. If we've got the larger footprint, it would fill the space right out in these vestibules here, and we've got the protection over the top. Now you don't have to use the footprint, you can actually remove it altogether if you like. So if we come down to the corner of the tent, if you want to use it without a footprint, it is important that you have all these done up, and I've just realized there's another one down low here. So make sure you've got that done up so the frame is attached to the fly. Go to each foot section here, and you might need to loosen this strap a little bit. Remove the C-clip from the foot section of the frame or the inner tent. Remove the pole out of the inner tent and replace the pole in the C-clip of the fly and tighten that down again. And that will then stay in place. This will want to sort of push out a little bit, but we're relying on the tension of all of this in the fly sheet to retain it in place. Now, one thing to bear in mind here, and I need to come on the outside to show you this, is that as soon as you remove this from the inner, this peg now plays no role in securing your fly sheet. So you actually need to either make sure you've secured this before you get in the tent, or move the peg from the inner to the fly sheet here to make sure that that is secured. So push that into there. That's now secured to the ground. You need to do that on at least 2 corners. I'm going to do it on these 2 at least because I'm going to set up this in hangout mode and I need this to be secured. So I've actually secured all 4 corners of the fly sheet now and remove the inner. I did it from the outside. You can do it from the inside. I did it from the outside now because I wanted to leave it set up like this as fly only mode to show you how you can use it like this. So you can see I've now removed the inner tent here. I'm going to sit on it so I don't get wet. And I can pack everything up in here, put it in my pack. I've got a dry space. I can also use this just as it is at the moment, pegged out. It works pretty well. It's going to work ideally with an actual footprint here because that's going to make it peg out neatly. As soon as I have pegged this out with what's available on the corners, it gets a little bit wonky, but it's still pretty good. It's still going to keep you pretty dry in mild weather. So from here, I could fold this up, pack this away, and the last thing I would do is pack the fly sheet away. Now, before I do that, I want to show you the hangout mode. So I've got to step outside the tent and do this door up to show you that. Now for hangout mode, we've got to add some guy ropes onto the tent because what's actually going to happen is this is all going to pivot upwards. So we need to add 2 guy ropes at the foot end, which I'll show you shortly. And we need to add the 2 short ones on each side here. So I'm not going to be able to set this up in full today because I don't have the trekking poles or optional kit to show you. But if you put these guy ropes through the loops at the base of the door here and then replace this peg for these loops with this guy rope. Now I'm just going to put this in tentatively at the moment because I don't know how tight it needs to be for this setup. But I will put it in like that and just tighten it up a little bit. It's going to give us a bit of space. We do the same thing on the other side with the other short guy rope. And then we go down the foot end and we attach these in a slightly different spot. So I've just adjusted them roughly for now, because we now need to come to this end and we grab both of these long guy ropes, and I won't use these today because I'm just going to hold it up to show you how it works. But you've got this little tab on here, one on each corner, one on this side, same thing on the other side over there, and it says Hangout mode. We use our long guy ropes and we tuck the little boomerang through the hole in the bottom here, pull it all the way through and feed it so it sticks out both sides so it locks into place. We can then use this hole here either for the tip of a trekking pole to go through underneath here, or the optional pole kit that you can buy for this tent. And what we then do is remove the pegs from the end of the tent, and we actually just tilt the tent up like this. If we now put the two poles in here, guide out, we've now got a bit of almost a gazebo that we can sit under. Awesome lunchtime stop, heaps of space under there, almost standing room under there at the moment. So that's what they call their Hangout mode. Two upright poles here. I would use the trekking poles because you probably already got them with you anyway, but there is another pole set made of the same DAC aluminium as these poles are that fit in here to allow you to use the shelter as a space like this. So with it like this, you could go from this Hangout mode, and then at night you could close it down and use it as your shelter. If you've got your footprint in here as well, you've got a covered space. So it gives you a really versatile, open kind of living area for your hiking campsite. So that's all the setup options of the Telos tent. It's available in both the 2 and the 3 version, all of those setup options. Now to pack the rest away, I'm actually going to remove the guy ropes from the corners there. I'll detach the fly from the frame, and we can pack it all back in its bags. So these fabrics being quite slippery can be hard to roll up neatly, but they're quite stuffable. So roll it up as best you can, and you'll find that it goes back in the bag pretty easily anyway. Doesn't matter if you stuff it a little bit, but making some effort to roll it means it's stored somewhat neatly inside the bag. That went back in there without any real effort, just a little bit of perseverance. Now when we fold up the fly, you could once again just fold it up as best you can. What I like to do with a fly sheet is try and find a common sort of fold point, and I think a good point with these is the tension ridge. So this is the little pockets each side with the tension ridge. So if I use the wind to my advantage here, let the fly sort of flow out in front of me like that and lay it down. I've kind of almost got this in half. So this is the vestibule, out the side here. If I fold that in, do the same on the other side here and fold that in, I've now got a bit of a rectangle shape. I can keep folding. I've got to use my bag as a reference, so I need it about that wide. Fold it in here again. And if I roll towards the bottom, I'm going to be squeezing the air out as I go. Now this won't sit neatly, as I mentioned. There's slippery fabrics. Looks neat now, but it'll move as I roll it. You've got a couple of little tensioners or little supports for the vent in here. You just need to lie them flat and then roll towards the bottom of the fly. Don't need to put too much effort into it, and that should then stuff back in the stuff sack pretty easily. So I forgot about my pegs. I'm just going to stuff that in the bag with the inner tent there, tighten that up, and then use these external pockets on these to slide. If you're carrying it like this, you can attach it all together again, or pack it separately if you like, whatever works for your setup. Tuck that in there. Do the same at the other end here. Roll this over, and then the clips on the sides here, this little alloy clip here, goes through the loop on the opposite bag there. Tighten that up, and you've got the opposite deal on the other side here. Loop this through the opposite side, tighten that down. And that is the Cedar Summit Telos TR2 all packed up. Same procedure for the different sizes and different inners. Pack up's a bit different for the bike packing one. As I mentioned, we've got a different video on that, so check it out. These are awesome tents, really well thought out. Every element of it has had some thought put into it. Everything's got a use, works really well, pitches really easily, pitches nicely, and I'm sure it's going to function just as well on the trail. Check these out online at snowies.com.au.